Hi, welcome back to the next episode in Old House DIY. In this one we're going to be looking at lime wash, particularly some pigmented lime wash. We've already done the lime plastering in this room, so check out this episode here somewhere for that. Now we need to get some breathable top coat. There's no point putting on breathable plaster if you don't have a breathable top coat. Lime wash is as good as it gets and it's very cheap, so it's win-win. So we want some colour in this room, so we're going to do a pigmented lime wash. This is the one we've actually chosen, but we've done a few test patches. So stick with me while I make up a big batch of this and we'll get it on the wall. These are our test pots I made. This, I always have a big bucket of white lime wash because I use it in cupboards and all sorts of random small places. But these are the pigments we use. We've got from a blue, the plum, carmine red, and then a strong dark red, which is almost a terracotta. And then we tried a few different blends. I thought it was actually going to be a bit of blue in the plum to get a bit more to the purple side, but actually it's turned out that what we wanted is just the pure plum. So I've got to hydrate some pigment and then I'm going to make up a big batch because you need to get consistency throughout the pigmentation. So you need one big load. So I'm going to make up about a 10-litre mix. So let's clear down the bench and I'll get ready for that. After all the test pieces, this is the pigment we decided on. It's Cornish lime plum. Before you use this, you're supposed to hydrate this. So I've got a bowl of hot water. I'm just going to add this in and then leave it, mix it in and then leave it an hour or so before we mix it into our lime wash mix. Not too much everywhere, just give it a bit of a mix. The correct mix for lime wash is 1:1 putty to water, then add a bit more water to get a double creamed, creamy consistency, and then no more than 10% pigment to lime putty. So I'm going to make a mix with 10 kilograms of putty, 10 kilograms or 10 litres of water. I'll then give that a good mix, and then to that I'll add 1 kilogram of pigment, which I've already hydrated. So let's measure out the putty. This putty is stuff I make myself. I've got another video here on that. So I've always got plenty of putty to hand. So this lime wash for me is very cheap and very effective. We've got our mix of 10 kilos of lime, 10 litres of water. We're going to mix it together, see what consistency we reach and add water if necessary. So, there we go, it was kind of a thick double cream consistency. There is a bit more putty in the bottom. You can feel it's heavier at the bottom than it is at the top. And this stuff does settle out. That's why it's important to keep mixing it as you're using it. But I'll give this a bit more of a mix and then I'll add in the pigment. Now I'll add in our pigment that we've already hydrated. I need to give this a bit of a mix because this has settled as well. There we go. I'll wash this out with just a little bit more water. Mix that through. There we go, there's our batch of lime wash mixed up. 10 kilos of putty, 10 litres of water and a kilo of pigment. The lime putty I make in 60 kilo batches and that cost me 60 quid, so about £1 a kilo, and a kilo of pigment is about £17. So we've got 30 litres there for about 20 quid. So I mean you can't beat it cost wise for paint. That much clay paint or earthborn paint or something would be 100 plus pounds. So it's great value for money, does the job really well. So next step is get it on the wall. That's where lime wash isn't so great. We're going to need lots of coats, but it goes on quick. So pros and cons. So come inside with me while we get some paint on. We're ready for paint now. The last couple of steps before we paint, because we're going on top of pre-existing coating here and the fresh lime here, we're going to lightly sand. I've got some 120 in a Merkur dustless pad here. I just lightly sand it. Just gives it a key for the lime wash to stick to the old paint. So vacuum on and away. We've sanded all the walls. Now we need to get all the dust off and any contaminants, etc. So same as you would any other wall, we wash it. Use the 2 bucket method. So I've got 1 bucket here with soap, sugar soap in it. So this we'll use to wash, and then we've got a rinse bucket to rinse the dirt out, the sponge, trying to keep the walls clean rather than smearing it back on. So soapy solution out the first bucket. Come out dirty, we get lots of whiteness, a bit more soap. Nice clean walls. Now, because we've got fresh lime plaster, we need to put on a dilute mix of lime wash first of all, a sealer, help control the suction, a bit like a mist coat like you would do with modern plaster. This is a much weaker mix of lime wash, big brush, slap it on, then once it starts to dry off, the trick with lime wash is just it's starting to wash off, you get a dry brush and you go over and do it again. So what I'll do is I'll paint the bottom half of this wall to seal it, then I'll move on to the next wall, and I'm just coating the exposed bits of plaster, so I'm not redoing the whole wall. That'll come when I move into colour. There's not much colour when this stuff goes on. It goes on very clear, but it darkens up or develops colour as the coats build up, because this is a multiple coat system. See, I've got a little stirrer in here, so every now and then you need to give the lime wash a stir to make sure that the lime isn't settling out to the bottom. As always with lime work, we wet down beforehand, so I'll give the water a quick spray before we start getting some colour on. This just helps control the suction, so the walls don't pull all the water out of the lime wash too quickly and dry it out too quickly. Lime wash can be prone to crumbling, so anything we can do to try and help that, like wetting down beforehand, we must do. We've got our pigmented lime wash we've made up. We've got our applying brush and we've got a drying brush. We don't need that for the time being. So let's start putting some colour on the walls. Things will really start to change now. You'll see we're getting quite a streaky coat. That's because we put this lime wash on really thin and it takes several coats to build up. So we'll work our way around, then we'll let it dry a couple of days and we'll keep it going. Probably 3 coats, maybe 4. Maybe I'll put you on time lapse so you can watch this. So there we go, it's the first coat. As you can see, coverage is awful. There's a difference in the coverage between the bottom with the fresh plaster and the top with the old plaster and the old paint, but it will build up. That's why we end up doing multiple coats. Also, we've got to go back in a minute. Once this has started, it's not quite dry in places. Once it's nearly dry, we'll go back over with a dry brush and we'll completely homogenize it. So that's next. So it's just starting to go off. So now I'm going to work it with a dry brush. You see, it takes out some of the thick bits and spreads it around. We're just sort of effectively knocking off any high bits. See, in this corner, it's still wetter. It allows us to spread it around. And we just do this. So I'm doing this about 2 walls behind. So it just takes the shiny bits off and spreads it around. First coat's gone off. As you can see, it's dried. It's really patchy. It's quite faint. That will improve as the coats build up. So wet it down and then a second thin watery coat again and repeat and repeat. You'll see as I wet it down, the colour does redevelop though. Gives an idea of hopefully what the colour will come out like in the end. Wet it down, same mix out of the bulk barrel again. Now I'll start working my way around the room. I've started on a different wall just so you've got a different shot this time. Because we've already got a coat of lime on this one, it's taking the paint a lot better this time. Our second pigmented coat has gone on. We're starting to get some uniformity across the wall, but it's still very patchy, particularly between the bottom and the top. So I'm going to do another coat, and I think after that I'm still going to have to do one more coat. So, and that fourth coat will probably be a much higher pigment load. Sometimes it's called a tone coat. So I think we've got one more of our normal mix, and then with a lot more pigment as our finish coat. Now, as always, wet down first. As I wet down, you'll see the colour will really start to show. That's the colour we're after in the finished coat. It looked lovely. On with the third coat. Start to take on some lovely colour now. We put a fourth coat on off camera. You don't really need to watch paint dry, but this is where we are with fourth coat. I'm now going to go for the fifth coat, and that I'm fairly sure will be the last coat. So the fifth coat, I've doubled the pigment load in the lime wash. It's sometimes referred to as a tint coat. So I shall get that on, but first, as always, wet down. The fresh plaster at the bottom is still absorbing way more moisture than the top, but the colour is a lot more homogeneous across the wall now. We've got our fifth coat, much higher pigment load as I just said. So hopefully this will be the last coat. Get it on the wall.
Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
This coat's going on really nicely. And it's covering really nicely, absorbing well. So I think we'll be there with this coat.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
So another wall down. I'll show you back when we're all finished. Hopefully that'll be it. There we go. Our final coat has set up. It's come together quite nicely. There are still a few textured patches, but that's always going to happen with this coating. Overall, I think it's come out really well and it's super breathable. We've got a radiator put up here, shelving to fit here, all sorts of stuff left to do. So that's the lime washing done. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please think about the inevitable like and subscribe, and please stick around for the next video. Thanks for watching.